All right, everybody. Hey, it is Saturday, May 23rd, 2020. You're listening to Disclaimers by Ed. Uh, Nothing big and special in my intro today. Just remember, we are not a democracy. Go look in the Constitution, the organic Constitution. It doesn't say democracy, democratic, or Democrat anywhere in there. But it does have Republican form of government in there. Go ahead and look at
But
it.
that's a republic form of government, the original one.
Well, yeah, the original says a republic form of government. So
Right,
yeah,
then they added the Republican part. Go ahead.
but basically, think about it, guys. All these news people, they're saying, "Oh, we got to protect our democracy." You know what? They got to protect their English royal inbred England masters. That's the democracy. But that's just my opinion. Go ahead and research it yourself and find out if it's got republic or democracy in there. Ed, why don't you take it away?
All right, I thank you for that, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. We do appreciate you taking the time out. Anyhow, I want to bring up, a couple of things tonight. I want to get into prosecutorial misconduct. And that has to do with the district attorney and even your lawyer. And see, that's the one. Misconduct is an act of an illegal act failing to act. And remember, an act is an action. It's like a movie, like an actor, actress. It's all an action. It's all an action. So let's say somebody's been wrongfully convicted and, even traffic ticket, you get falsely accused, kidnapped and held for ransom. That is a fact. And then when they do mail fraud and they send you money and they want you to pay them, that's mail fraud, extortion by mail. So, learning all these terminologies and with all these effects that affect them as well as us, but also too, is you have to know what you're doing with your paperwork. That's the one thing. I do come up with a cover letter, and I do produce it, and I give it out. I'm not worried about it. I believe in sharing and education. And that's the one thing that we've got to start doing in this country. It's called education. Our things have failed us. Our system has failed us. Your system has failed you. In other words, you failed yourself. Because you are the system when you look in the mirror. See, that's the one thing. We can't change the historical facts. We can rewrite history and lie, but we can't change the real facts when they come out. And that's what we're dealing with right now, really, the facts. I get a lot of these people that try to block me and go after me because I educate you on the real truth. The facts, and right now we've got the structure where we got the routing numbers. And I told you I was getting to get all this stuff on the Queen and your accounts and stuff. So we've got the structure on the accounts. So we're working on putting that together. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know where all this came all of a sudden. I wasn't that tired all of that but anyhow. So we want to get into that. And I want to get into the other point, how the Queen of England, the terrorist of the world, announced that, you can have your child taken. And she put out a video with her and her sister years ago, how in dealing with the Nazism, how they decided that they need to take children and depopulate them in other areas for their protection. That's what your coronavirus is all about. Coronavirus is all about for your protection. Come on. We never had a pandemic, and I was glad to see a congressman on the floor bring this part up. And I really was glad to see the congressman bring it up. We've gone through so many epidemics in this country. We never shut down the country before. Never done that. So that is the one thing that is so shocking, because we shot down the war, the country with no war. Even the Civil War, we never shut down the country. World War I, we never shut down the country. World War II. We fought the British government 5 times. We never shot the government down. So it amazes me when we're doing all this and people are panicking instead of using common sense. And so even surveillance, that's a crime. And that's what I'm dealing with this lady because, she had a caseworker walking her home. She had surveillance on her property and videotaped the caseworker walking in her home. Then they're trying to justify and say that, they were doing it for her protection and checking on her and see how she was doing. Excuse you, you dumb fucking ass. You don't do that. If you're that stupid to accept those words, then you are a stupid woman or man to accept that when you had a public employee telling you that they're your God. You go find God and prove to me there is a God. I'm not against religion, but, you're entitled to your religion by the Constitution and the Indian treaties that gave you the law for your Constitution. See, that's the one thing you got to realize. The Indian treaties with the British government is what started this country. We gave you your rights to talk, your freedom rights. That comes from the Indian treaties. That's not from the Constitution, because the Constitution was formed by the Indian treaties. See, it's interesting when you get to know what the structure is, because the Indian treaties are the law of the land. And that was Strother versus Lucas, 37 U.S. 410-12 PET 410/1 or /9 LED 1137 1938. All Congress, your senators, your congressmen, your mayor, your city council members, all of your elected and public employees and their contractors are bounded by public treaties. That's by the law. That's Richard, Riechert, R-I-E-C-H-E-R-T versus Flips, F-E-L-P-S, 73 U.S.C. 1606, wall, /60, 610, 618. LD, this is 849, 1867. Congress cannot legislate. See, they have to get permission, but they're doing this, that they came in with their second treaty in 1867 called the British Vatican Roman Catholic Christian Churches. Yes, that's right. You're bounded by the Christian church. You're a Christian. You have no rights. You're bounded by the authority of the Christian authority to be hung or to be executed, whatever they decide. The Christians get to decide if you get to live or die. That's why I won't be part of any Christians or religion. Christians, our religion, all religions are mind control trapped. You guys got to step out of the movie and watch the production. You're living it, and you're not even paying attention. You're not even paying attention to the structure of this coronavirus that was passed around by your government. Nancy Pelosi and all them. Nancy Pelosi put a bill on the floor just recently, and I put this video up, that said they wanted to bypass the Constitution. Because if they could save one life by administrating their law over your life, so that way if you have to go to a FEMA camp and be executed, you're supposed to say, yes, Mommy and Daddy, I do what I'm told. It's exactly what your democracy is doing to you right now. I want a democracy. I want Democrats. I want a democratic democracy. You idiot. I mean, you can't even see the writing on the wall why your family's being executed, why your homes are being stolen, why your property was foreclosed on by illegal property taxes. That by law, there's no such thing as property taxes. Not in the United States, there isn't. There is by the British law, but that's in England. See, this is the one thing that you got to realize, that we are not living in England, and we are not a democracy. We are a republic form of government. You can type Republican form of government and come up with a constitution, and each and every state bounded by the treaties and then the Constitution. And if you go by each city and each state constitution, you'll see it's written that way too. See, that's the one thing we people don't realize, that you don't have a right to pay property taxes. It's a privilege. The only one that has to, by law, pay property taxes by law, by their administrative rules, because law is administrative rules, the Constitution and treaties are the law of the land. Big difference in the circumstances once you know the real truth. See, it would be nice if people started studying the truth to protect their children. But most people don't care about their children. Because it's like I always hear from parents, hey, they're 18, they're on their own, I did my job, I don't care about them. 95% of you people don't give a shit about your children anyway, so what the hell's your point when they get taken? You don't want to learn the law. Like, you know, the two women told me this last week, oh, a caseworker said this, they go in my home and they're doing this for my protection, the caseworker said that. And I thought that was interesting that a caseworker would say such a thing. You know, the caseworker told a lie. And these people expect to believe a lie. See, and then they want to raise children, so they raise their children in lies. What a country. What a country to live in. Everything's based on a lie. Your finances are based on a lie. And we're still working, putting that structure together right now. We'll have that together, shortly, with your your birth certificate structure. You know, and yes, it is called a birth certificate. People want to call it a straw man, but then again, we got conflicts with the word straw man and what it means. And then the other point is people want to go through Admiralty Court, and then it's a District Court of British Columbia, which I do have that fact, and I'll be posting that up because I'm putting that together. So that way to educate you how to go to the right court, because when you have a problem with your mayor, city council, and all that, you don't have to take it to a district court. So you don't even read the laws. Everybody goes, I need to go to court. Then they file in Portland, Oregon, like, oh, we got to go to a district court, the federal district court. Your federal district court is run by the Queen of England. It's not an American court system at all, period. And I put that up for the last couple of years, showing you how to go through the Ninth Circuit Court, and then that way you can file with the Ninth Circuit Court to go through them in Philadelphia for their actual court. I mean, even the Supreme Court of the Ninth Circuit Court of California even stated that for a child to be taken, it has to be a warrant issued. See, and a warrant is not a judge. A judge cannot issue a warrant. A judge does not work for the people. And there was a new piece that came up on that that's going to shock people about the Constitution and the treaties coming up. We'll be getting that out here probably next talk show. Excuse me. I don't know where this came from, but anyhow, we'll get that up next talk show. But I want to get you so you start comprehending that you do have a public trust. When you get kidnapped and held for ransom, and they say, oh, you didn't buy a driver's license or hunting and fishing license, and they haul you out to jail so they can bill you to the public trust. And so that's what we're working on right now. And I got to finish up the other paper that I told you with the Utility Commission. You know. So, come here, old dog. Got an old dog that came in the house. Haven't seen this guy in a long time. So, but anyhow, all the dogs in the neighborhood come visit. So, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, yeah, there's food for you, dog. Yeah, we'll get you a doggy treat. So, but anyhow, you got to realize that how all this stuff works. All this stuff comes together. Who do you work for? Who signs your paycheck? You know, that is the one thing that, you know, people got to look at that point. You know, who's paying your bill? See, that's the one thing you got to realize. And then they're putting the stimulus check out. And it's like I watched a videotape where one congressman is going that, well, they don't know how they're going to pay for all this. They have the trillions of dollars. It's built on public trust off your birth certificate. Executive Order 2040. See, if people would actually read this stuff, it would be amazing. And then you wonder why your kids have problems. You know, your kids have problems because, oh, that's right, you're not educating them. And see, that's the problem. We don't educate the children. And so with that problem, we wonder why these people are losing their kids, how the kids are going to the stay homes, you know. And that is the point. You know, these kids are sitting there being brought up without proper education. And so who's to educate them? You. Because your school system has failed. You got to realize your schools don't work for you. Your schools work for a corporation. And that corporation is not you. And once you realize that corporation is not you, because how come when you go to school and you say these things that you need with your teacher for your kids and the teachers don't follow through? See, that's the point. The teachers don't do their job. Who's to do the job? You. And that's what we're trying to do. Now, we're getting the information out in the public trust. I got some more of that information put together. I'm trying to put together a package so we can publicize it. I wanted to get into tonight that I'm going to get into dealing with the new ID codes. Because remember, they got new IDs that are going to recommend you to have this new federal ID. And who's required to a federal ID? Is it you? I don't know. Are you a citizen? I sure ain't no citizen. I sure don't believe in the British government. I don't believe in doing what I'm told. I live free. You know, isn't that what you're supposed to do, live free? So if you're living free, how come you're not living free? See, that's the point. People are not living free. We're not living free. You're paying taxes. You know, and that's what I'm working on in the state of Oregon is a property tax issue. Now, I heard a rumor that the federal government's shutting down federal funding for jails. I hope that rumor is true. Because in that way, your states cannot just pick you up and arrest you, and your local cops can't rape your children for money, and you. Strip search is rape. Patting down, any type of search is rape. And that's the one thing, you got to know what the hell the rape is. And so when you allow your children to be patting down or do that, or, you know, and you allow that to happen with your school, or some cop does that and you allow the cop to get away with it, that's your fault. You allow your child to get raped. Hey, you're the rapist. The guy who raped your child is not the rapist. You're the rapist. You allowed it. See, everybody's got to hide behind a shield instead of taking responsibility. So we got this thing coming up with this new ID, federal ID. I'm going to go read this to you here in a minute. But see, one thing is you got to realize with this new ID, the federal ID, it comes down with the circumstances. Boy, this is weird. So, let me go read this to you so you start comprehending. Because this is what you're going to be faced with, but then again, you need to know how to respond to this. You know, you need to know if you're a citizen. That's why I say you have to file to own yourself. If you don't file to own yourself or your children, who owns you? Foreign government. Could be China. Who knows? You're not owning yourself. You don't care. You know, you're not allowing the responsibility of this stuff to happen to you. You know, you're not protecting your family. You're not protecting your children. So prosecutorial misconduct. You guys got to read that. It's on the dictionary. Please read it. This way you get to know. So anyhow, U.S. Code, Federal Regulations, 37.3, definition. Regulations, mostly receipt checked for updates by May 22nd, 2020. Full legal name means individual, first name, middle, or last name, or surname without initials or nicknames. So you're going by a surname. That's a British government name. That's a given name. That is not your, if you want to use your name, then that's your problem. You're not responsible. An individual is not responsible. It's like I was just setting this out with guys who were arguing about common law. I want common law. I don't want common law. See, you guys don't even comprehend what the words of common law really mean. You don't even know what common law is. So that means common law says you can rape, rob, and pillage. That's common law says you can rape the children. So why isn't that law? That's common law says you're allowed to do it. Your Vatican, your preachers say it all the time. Well, you know it's a crime to rape children. That's what your Pope and the ministers say all the time. So in the damn Bible they can rape children. Why don't you read the Bible? It says raping children in the Bible is acceptable. And everybody goes, I want to go by the Bible. That's a book of terrorism. So in a driver's license, identification use, and this is the other point, a driver's license use, identification cards will not be accepted. All right, they're working on getting away with that to eliminate that. Now, I've been working on the state of Oregon trying to get a traveler's card with the House of Senate. And you can even talk to most of the representatives. Kim Thatcher is one. Bovet is another one. I've been pushing for ID cards for traveler cards, not ID cards. I want traveler cards. So it's a card to travel. It's not, it's not identification. Here's my name. Here's my ID. Here's my birth certificate number, my registration. I want an ID card that says I have a right to use my public roads. I don't have to pay you. And that is one thing with the Real ID Act they're trying to come up with. Well, the Real ID Act, I'm not complying with myself because I don't have a license. I'm not agreeing to their terms. I'm not giving up my rights. People say, well, you don't have a right to your Constitution. You weren't born here. Well, that's true. I was born here. And those who weren't born here, that's the other truth. They don't have a right. So by October 21st, the federal law agencies shall not accept or purpose of any driver's license identification card issue. Federal government will not accept your Social Security number as identification coming up. So this is the federal law that's been passed. Okay, and this is also to an amendment to F 79 FR 77838, December 29, 14. All right, so this is on the this is on my Facebook page and all of our Facebook pages. Do not New Oregon Trackers. We've got it on Recall Cape Brown. So this is up there, your Real ID Act and stuff like this. So the driver's license will not be used as identification coming up. So that means you can't get what is that? Electricity bill or plug into this stuff. That's the one thing that people are not paying attention. They're going to be cutting this stuff off. And now if they're cutting off the federal funding, that's what I'm hoping they do to the jails. So that way, only people go to jail is a real criminal. And if it really comes down to it, you got somebody terrorizing, you just have to go beat his ass. I mean, that's what it's coming down to. Should be that way. You shouldn't have to sit there and run around and be afraid. So the other point I'm putting together that I'll have out later on this week is a structure dealing with Columbia River in Oregon and Hanford and Fukushima. I don't know where these people are coming up trying to say Fukushima, the water's dissipated, and it doesn't have effect in the ocean. You people are not living in reality. Why don't you go talk to your fishermen and see where the fish are at? There ain't no fish. They're not getting as many fish as they used to. They're going out longer. Say, Fukushima is still leaking. Excuse me, they have opened up reactor one. They did basically blow up reactor one that decided to leak right in the river, right in the ocean. So we are dealing with that problem right now. This is a reality. That's leaking. We got Hanford leaking in the Columbia River. Nobody in Oregon or Washington wants to talk about that to the people. See, that's the point. We got this stuff that's killing us. We're eating this stuff, poisoning our stuff, poisoning our families, and that's the other point is that how come people are not getting it? See, I just can't see how people are doing that. You know, to their families and stuff. And don't forget, you can apply this stuff to the Hobbs Act. And if you don't know what that is, type in Hobbs Act and read it. You'll be surprised what you find out what they're doing by raping, robbing, and stealing your money and stuff. But you have to file the criminal complaints. By law, a state attorney general, a district attorney, a judge, police officer cannot file an affidavit on your behalf. They can probably write it up for you, but you have to write it and file it. You have to autograph it. Never do a signature. Everything has to be an autograph. And that is the one thing that people don't get that point. Everything has to be an autograph. If you're signing stuff, that's a dead man's hand. You have no rights at that point. You're signing an illegal obligation. Of course, most of the stuff is already illegal anyways. But see, that's the one thing you got to pay attention. And that's the other thing, too, I want to bring up. John Oliver had a good deal on the post office services, where they're talking about going after the post office. We want the post office service still in existence. Everybody's going to privatize this cheaper, and it's like, you guys don't get it. It's already in the public trust funding. It's prepaid. It's already paid. And you got public employees that are out there arguing with you on this stuff, and they don't want to pass it around. They just want to deal with this. So that is the one thing that you don't want to deal with this stuff, is when you're doing this, you want to know your legal and your lawful obligations. Legal is foreign, lawful is native. So it's getting to comprehending of what your Constitution structure is all about. You have to know what your Constitution is in the Indian treaties. That's the law of this land. And you talk about the biggest mind control vice, this is what we're going through this pandemic. I mean, you figure out of 390 million people, you know, what, maybe 100,000 died, and we got people that died from the common cold more than each year. You know, with the flu, emphysema, other stuff, and, you know, most of this stuff was caused by man anyways, by the chemicals in that. And so that's the other point. You got to realize they're all nonprofit organizations under 501c3 through 9. So you can always look at the forms and look at the form search of 990. So everything is a nonprofit agency, and if they don't file their structure, they are liable. And if you're a nonprofit agency, you should be scared as hell, because when you're sitting there asking for funding, your assets are liable. And that's the one thing I talk to people all the time. I want to be a nonprofit agency. I want to do this. I want these write-offs. Okay, just remember, you take those write-offs, you can go to prison. That's why we're working on the W-9 forms, the W-2 forms, and a few other things, because we want to make sure that when we're giving this information out, that we know that our ass is protected from you, because I don't trust you if I give you that knowledge. Because you might come around and try to say, well, I want to sue you for it. And I'm going, no, that's why we have disclaimers up there. It's called you're a man or a woman. You're supposed to be lawfully obligated for yourself, or a corporation legally for yourself, or using a corporation name. So law enforcement may not arrest or threaten or, you know, intimidate you. And this is Title 18, Section 242 and 243. And see, this is the one thing, they get away with it all the time. And you allow this because you vote these politicians all the time. You invite in these Democrats that want to rape your children, and you accept it. That's what amazes me. You know, it really totally amazes me that these people accept this stuff when their children are getting raped and robbed, and, you know, going, and they got these public servants walking into people's homes, and they're saying, we have a right to come in your home because we got your kid. And I'm just amazed by these people allowing this to happen. You know, and if you really want to pay attention to what's going on, you know, you have to read on Title 28, 3002. That's the Bankruptcy Act, and all income is supposed to go to the natives. It even says it in the structure of the paperwork. Okay, and deputized marshals or United States marshals are the only lawful legal law enforcement agency, and that is under Title 28 U.S.C., and that is 311A, under Section 311A. And so this is the one thing that the sheriffs are supposed to be the collectors. And that is the one thing that people are not paying attention to, that structure. See, and then everyone wants to go, I need to have a police officer or a cop. The cops don't have legal or lawful authority. Type that in the internet. They've already admitted that, you know, when 2 court cases major where elderly women were being raped and one of them was murdered, and they called the police and the police didn't show up, and they went to sue them, and they said, police have no obligation to protect you. But technically they do have an obligation because they're under public funding. So, and that is under the 1940 Public Funding Act. So that is the one thing that amazes me, how these things are there, but they're not there, and how people don't do this. They don't protect themselves. Then they want to sit there and argue about other points that don't even know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, most people don't have a concept. They go by sound bites they heard on a TV show, talk show, or something, but they never have done anything, you know. They never wrote anything. They never went out there and prosecuted anything, you know. And so that's the one thing that we always got to look at for the electrical federal debts, you know, and what's going on. So, I mean, this is our point of view, that we have to do this stuff. You know, this is our responsibility to ourselves and our children. This is our responsibility for our country, because it's our country. And so if it's our country, how come we're not protecting it? How come you're not protecting it? How come you're not out there protecting the children? See, and this is what always gets to me. Everybody says, oh, I'm doing all these fundraising. I'm raising money for this project, that project. And it's amazing how all these people, money gets raised, but where's the money going? You know, that's the one thing that gives me public trust. Where's the money gone? You know, that's the one thing that I always, you know, type in 18 U.S.C. 3771. Why you use a zip code? You're not supposed to use a zip code unless you're military or a church member. Remember, those post offices are military bases, technically. So what they come down to is military bases. And see, people are not educated in comprehending what all this stuff is. We've been putting this stuff out for the last few years. We still do research and knowledge, and we don't want to make sure that you're educated in the stuff. So we want to be educated too. You know, it's like your mayor and city council. The only administrative rules that they can pass is on themselves, not you when you live in a city. And I keep fighting that in my own town. These guys keep trying to tell me, yo, Ed, you got to do what we tell you. And I keep telling them, no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't do what you tell me. I don't care what you tell me. I'm not here for you. See, I'm here to protect my neighbors, my people. You know, the original people of this country. So, and if we get this, I got to see if we can play this soundbite next week, because I would like to get this soundbite next week on the stuff what Pelosi's doing. But we don't want to get in a conflict of interest, even though it is played nationally. But this goes to, you know, what they're doing on the floor. You know, these Democrats are trying to pass these administrative bills to take away your rights there. The Queen of England already just came out and said that the children belong to the Democratic Party. You know, and you got to realize the Democratic Party is you. You know, or not you. All right? If you're going to play a Democrat, that means you have no rights. You know, that's the one thing. You have no rights as a Democrat. You know, that's why everybody hides behind a cop, police officer. You can't handle your own structure. You can't handle your own responsibility. See, that's the problem that we're living today. You know, people don't get this problem we have today. People really, truly don't get what's going on. You know, it's sad that people are not getting what's going on today. You know, like you said, it's crazy with this coronavirus that is doing this, you know, doing all this stuff out there. And people are buying into this stuff. I mean, I'm watching people freak out and running away from this. And don't forget, when it comes to your public employee, your mayor, city council members, Title 18, 2381 is Treason Act. Write it, file it, learn it. That's the point. If you don't learn it, you don't file it, it does not exist. And once you start realizing how these things work, and yes, people say, well, you know, they filed the paperwork, they're not doing anything. Well, you're not filing in Washington, D.C. You're filing locally in your own structure, and you got the fox watching the hen house who's eating the chickens anyway, so, and you're doing that, and that is the one thing that you are missing. You're not paying attention to what's really going on. So when it comes out to the structure of the stimulus check that is coming out, you know, this is your money, folks. This is not just a handout like some people are saying. Like, you got people out there saying, well, the money ain't there. And it's not true. The money is there. It's already prepaid. You know, we've already proven this stuff. We've got it up there with on our walls and Facebook sites. We're trying to get that out because we want you to realize that. You know, I mean, and that's the one thing. Slavery and personage. That's Title 8, Section 1583. And see, when you're paying taxes and you're ordering and you're doing what a public employee's telling you what to do, you're a slave. So you're giving up your rights. Yeah, all right. So let's say we have to protect ourselves with this so-called virus that they're talking about. But the virus was created. So that comes under prosecutable misconduct. So when you prosecute, you know, misconduct. That's a district attorney, that's a cop, judge, anybody. You know, and I've filed charges on these people. I've been threatening you, quit backing off, Ed. You keep filing charges, we're going to come after you. They already done that. So I'm doing more and more. I lost my family. For once, I knew what a family was for a short period of my life. Never knew that prior. So, but anyhow, this is the point that we're looking at all this stuff, you know, dealing with what we're living right now. So they want to do this new structure on the Federal Driver's License and ID Act. Claim yourself, own yourself. Go to your legislators and make sure that you're telling them we want a traveler's card. We're native. We're not to be prosecuted like you. You know, we have a right to travel, not to do what you would tell us to do. You know, I mean, you know, that's the one thing. These cops are out there writing tickets to people that are, you know, I'm watching cops physically on YouTube beating people up because they didn't have their face mask on. You know, it's like, and you guys need to start charging these people with the criminal charges. They don't have a right to do this. You know, this is the other point, too, so you get to know what's coming up in the state of Oregon. The Democrats are already caught swapping ballots already in the state of Oregon. You already know public employees were going to do that. You know, so, I mean, like you said, I'm running for office. I have no idea what transpired last week with the election. And why am I going to worry about it? I still got to put my emails out for the next 3 months anyway, so that way people get it. See, this is the one thing, you know, voting by mail and voting, the 17th Amendment was put into the corporation. And if you're native, technically we're not supposed to vote anyways. You know, I mean, that's the one thing when I registered to run for office, and they're like, well, are you a Democrat, you're a Republican, other? And I said, no, I'm native. Well, I said, you write it in native because that's what it is. The native treaties are still above you, aren't they? And the Secretary of State was like, well, yeah. So let's do things lawfully, not legally, because I don't believe in illegal points. I don't believe in your Bible and your religion. Because King James Bible is legal. Lawful is not King James Bible. Not religion. And I know people get down on me, hey, quit talking about religion the way you do. And it's like, well, I talk about religion because it's the way it is, and I'm not going to bow my head to some foreigner. I mean, it disturbs me when people bow their heads to foreigners that come into our country. You know, that is the one thing that you have a right to stand up against these foreigners coming in and taking over your land and your rights. You know, I don't know why we get all these illegal holidays anyways in our country. I mean, we can't wait till we get rid of all the rest of Columbus days. Because Columbus is, what is that? Columbus never even came here. So, and then we're going to get into 8 U.S.C. 3163. This is your public charges. And so, like I said, I'm putting this stuff together, and until I get more adapt on it, I want to know, more, of the definitions and the meanings of these circumstances and the cross references to their administrative rules. Because when we start providing this stuff out to you about public charge and water electricity bill, which I've already filed in our state, and I did file that in the state of Oregon, so that way we could, when this thing gets set up, this way we could make sure that it is done, so that way we don't have to worry about anybody going to jail or being targeted by the unemployment employees. So we want to make sure those public servants work for us. We want to work with those who are honorable, and that is the one thing, once you realize the honorable ones, and that's the one thing we got to work with, the honorable ones. That's the one thing. The trust has to be built back up between men and women and our public servants. And either it comes that way, or else we just might as well just go back to war and say, forget it all. But we already got enough war going on right now. Literally, we're fighting each other in the street. We're panicking over, not wearing a face mask, and then somebody's getting brutally beaten up for not having a mask. And it's scary when you see these cops out there assaulting people for not wearing a mask. When where's the proof? Excuse me. We have a right to know the proof. There's too many conflicting interests. Too many conflicting interests with the coronavirus out there. So that's the thing that gets me with all this conflicting interests, what, why, and who to say what. So let's not forget the United States is a corporation. And that's the other point, too, is I'd like to bring up the 14th Amendment was never passed, nor ratified, nor could have been. And that was even brought up in the Dred Scott case, Stanford, 60 U.S. 19H 393 595 1857. See, I mean, these things have already been argued in the courts, and you got to remember that these people, these lawyers and judges back then actually were people of the people. Since they put the 1940 Administration Rule Act in, these people have gone crazy. Rape, rob, and pillage. And that's what it is, rape, rob, and pillage. Statutes are not law. But they're claiming it's law, so we have a right to shoot you because you farted in the wind. We didn't like when your child sit in school, so we're going to arrest the child and beat you up. So anyhow, let me make it clear, we are not lawyers. We're not psychologists. We're not here. We can help you out, but we're not here to put ourselves in jeopardy or to put you in jeopardy. We're providing you the knowledge of these case notes and the education that we were able to provide for you. We want you to do your research. Prove us wrong. If you prove us right, then join us and start doing this. But we will be putting together the structure with the unemployment, definitely how to file your rights on your public trust fund. We are working on that one. So then when we get more and more put together, and I'm working with a couple people on that, so we'll get more and more of that put together coming up. And then that way when we get that out, we're going to want people to start standing up on it, because we start doing that, we got to make sure that everything's done lawfully, not legally. And we want the legal part to take the criminals out. Because if you're filing paperwork and you have no rights because you're an immigrant, immigrants are not protected. You know, that's under the treaty laws. I'm going by the treaty laws. The treaty laws are the law of the country by the Supreme Court and by the de facto corporation called Congress. Because Congress has to go by the treaties first, and that's even by the Congressional Administrative Rules. Says it right there, folks. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. You can double check what I'm saying. It's on new.org and trackers. And go type in your structure on your website. Call your congressman. That's the other thing. We do want to make sure that people get out to their congressmen these letters and ask them point blank of these things. It's up to you to ask these questions. Because we're asking questions too. We're getting responses back, but we need to get more response back. So with your letters and your invitations and that stuff, and we're able to correlate that stuff, and we can work this stuff together, and we get more and more education out for all of us, that's what counts, and that's the one thing we got to do. So we're covering some of the bases, but I want to make sure that next week when we do this, we start bringing into the corporation. I've already brought in some of the other administrative rules. We're going to be bringing more of that coming in to you next week. I wanted to make sure that I was able to comprehend some more stuff. I want to double check before I start putting my foot out there or my mouth out there, one or the other. So with that, we know that the treaties are the law of the land. We've got that. We got the congressional records. We've got that up. We've proven that. That is also too in Title 28.3002, and even says where the debtor means person, liability, and also too that the funding that the debtor is to pay is to go to the native people of this country. Says it right there in its own law. So I mean, they wrote it. We quote it. So anyhow, with that one there, I don't know if my partner is back, and if we can, we'll open up the floor, and if not, we'll keep going.
All participants are unmuted.
Okay, he's back. So why don't we go ahead and open up the floor, see if anybody's got some thoughts today. Nobody today? Okay. Well, if we got nobody today, and that means everybody else is running out doing their stuff. Well, if we don't have any comments today, then let me make sure that you guys start learning the structures that you want to put on your letterheads: non-combatant, civilian, non-belligerent. So we've got to use military terms on this structure, seeing that they're doing that, and their police departments are wearing military, basically IDs today. So it's putting this structure together. So we'll get more of that out. So it is putting this stuff together. Anybody got anything they would like to add tonight?
House Resolution 3332.
Say that again?
House Resolution 3332, 241 through 259.
Why don't you go ahead and bring that up?
Covers your situation when it comes to unusual and cruel punishments, comes to psychological warfare, threats of violence, intimidation, coercion. So just another piece of the puzzle when it comes to the stuff that you were talking about earlier.
I'll make sure it's posted on the Facebook. We'll get that in the pages that we're working on, because I still got the other pages I got to connect, and we'll tie that up.
Okay, and with the Hobbs Act, you want to include the Clayton Act and the Sherman Act.
Well, that's one too. I haven't been brought up and got into the Sherman Act in a while.
And then if you want to get into the money situation, all the money sitting in Philippines and across the world, there's over 300 and some odd tons of it.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to get them to release for the One People's Public Trust. That's what it's really called, is the OPPT. So
that's a fact.
And we put that video up yesterday. We're hoping to get that spread around. But I also put up the Sherman and the Clayton Act because those coincide with the Hobbs Act of what's going on right now when it comes to this coronavirus. These people do not have the right to have you sanctioned in your home.
No, they don't.
The governors are going, if you cannot write them and you cannot do the criminal charges, look at the criminal charges and bombard their websites. Okay. This would be like a few years back, the truckers blocked all the streets in D.C. so nobody could get in and get out.
Mm-hmm.
The more you bombard their websites, and if you can really get them to the point where you bombard them enough, it'll shut their websites down. They won't even be able to function. And then they'll be pleading you not to do that. So.
I've heard those tales before.
Yes. And then that's the other one. If you're in Virginia, come Tuesday, Northam has decided that you're going to have to mandatorily wear a mask. We've also posted that up, that the mask causes carbon monoxide poisoning to your body, which includes, there's another term for it from the medical terms, but basically it poisons your own body because you're not breathing.
Well, yeah, and that's why they want to put this carbon tax in to kill you.
Well, what really gets me is what's so funny about it is, come on, let's think about this. And I don't really want to use this terminology, but it's just the easiest way to do it. Do your underwear and your britches stop a fart? So, there you go. I mean, in reality, if it can't stop that, it's not going to stop this supposed coronavirus. The other one is, a lot of people don't know it, but the 5G towers, when they're turned on, they do an emission of radiation, and It does an umbrella effect. And that umbrella effect, believe it or not, in their terminology is called a corona. So if you don't believe me, that video's out there also on YouTube. You probably want to be looking at the YouTubes from the Britain.
Just type in 5G corona, it'll come up too.
Yep. So I can't believe we ain't got nobody else out there. There's usually somebody out there. Come on now.
Well, I know. Usually there is, but I don't know. It's like tonight there's not many people there today, so.
Well, it is a holiday weekend, so.
I don't know what holiday weekend is. A Memorial Day weekend?
No, it's Rolling Thunder.
Oh.
They don't call it Rolling Thunder anymore. They said they weren't going to do that, and Trump said, yes, we are. In fact, he went out and greeted them this morning, I believe it was, and yesterday, and had a talk with most of the bikers out there. And, that's one of the things that we're trying to pass around, is to honor those, following people that unfortunately were tricked into fighting, wars that they probably shouldn't have had to. At the same time, they did go out there and, try to keep this land free of idiocy, stupidity people.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one you touched on was China is coming, and China is already trying to invade. And
that's true. That's a real factor, because they've been buying up all things they can. And by the United States Constitution and Indian treaties, foreign countries cannot buy land or move in this country.
Nope. But unfortunately, that leads back to the Bankruptcy Act. So.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem. People ain't educated and intelligent enough for that one. That's a guarantee.
Well, if they really want to get into something, they really need to check the 114th Congressional Committee and the 115th Congressional Committee and see what was changed back over to give you your freedoms. Okay, Trump has actually been out there trying to work and help people, and he's trying to get the money situated so that, we have the backing because we have the gold, and he's doing his best. The sad part is we need to start stepping up ourselves. These governors don't have the right to tell us what we can do. They're supposed to be our servants, and we need to remind them of that. So.
Yeah, they're privileged personnel.
No, they're not. If you talked about the 14th Amendment. If you use the 14th Amendment, it'll send you to the 11th Amendment, and in the 11th Amendment it says, if they do that, they're operating in their private capacity. They are not operating in public capacity, and they are not operating under their oath of office. Therefore, they are a private individual subjecting you to their wills and their whims, and therefore you have the right to sanction them. And sanction can be a lien, but it has to be done in a proper manner. And that's the thing. We have to comprehend these things. It's not easy. I'm gonna tell you straight up, it's not easy. It's a lot of reading, but at the same time, what are you doing? If you ain't working, you might as well sit down and read. And you might as well get yourself educated on this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of us out here that can't go to work, want to go to work. And this is another thing. If you're reading this stuff and you get yourself freed up, you have the right to unlimited contracting, and you can designate what you want. Once you start to learn this, and that's why we're trying to find out the forms on the taxation and whatnot, and that is so that you know what you're doing, so when you walk into any situation, you can handle it. And it's not that difficult. It's difficult in the reading process, maybe the comprehension, but that's why we're here.
It's difficult until we know.
Yeah. So, and there's plenty of people out here trying to help. We're not the only ones. There's other people out here helping each other, and that's the only way we're going to get this handled is for each other to step up and help one another. The one thing that I found is sometimes we have some egotistical issues. Let's put aside the egotistical issues. Let's agree to disagree. Let's just figure this thing out so that we can get things back into the hands of the people where it belongs. At this point in time, the structure they have set up is you have been entrapped by enslavement. In fact, a lot of you probably don't even know it, but if you have your marriage license and you're married, go take a look at it, because in there it says your children are not your property. And that is just something that I cannot agree with.
It's in the paperwork. It says it right there.
Yep. And then when you get a birth certificate, they don't tell you. These are what's known as invisible contracts, because they figure if you're above 18, you're supposed to know this stuff, especially if you're above 25, and sadly, they don't explain this stuff. They're not going to explain this stuff.
Well, actually, they used to explain it in school, and they stopped doing it after the 1980s.
Yes. And if you don't believe things going on, maybe you should rewatch 1984, with good old George Orwell there.
Yep.
Then you probably want to, watch a few other things, Yes, there's entertainment out there, but sometimes you really want to kind of look at it from a different point of view. Don't be entertained by it. Actually think about what they're trying to tell you. Because there's some people that were out there that were trying to give you the message. Unfortunately, their hands were tied a bit, but their artistic situation in some of those, for lack of better words, it is programming. They want you to keep your heads down. One of the ones that we recently shared was a video about a guy who was a professor, and he was a law professor. And Ed Brinkley, briefly touched on that earlier. And what we found out is some things aren't exactly going the way that they say they're supposed to go. Number one, I don't know anybody that hasn't seen Perry Mason or Law and Order or any of these ones, Matlock or anything like that. Each time you see a judge in that courtroom, one of the things that was put in the Constitution for your protection was not to have a judge in that room, because they could not be trusted, because they didn't know if they were corrupt or not. And, what we found out in our studies is the judge makes probably, on the average, it's like $18.75, but we'll round it off to $20. So every conviction he gets an extra $20 in his pocket. And the reason that they're going after the jails and the prisons is because they were privatized. You can look it up. It's PZN and CCA and I think CCC. There's about 8 different versions of privatized prison systems and jailhouses, and it really needs to be turned back over to the people, and we need to start asking to research the books in each and every state. We've brought on the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, with Walter J. Burian.
Yeah, and that's the too. I do recommend you go to his site and look at it.
You can literally find most of this stuff on the website because it has to go under the Freedom of Information Act. The other one you'll find, if you go to GMEI or you look up LEI, which is Legal Entity Identifier, you can look it up on Wikipedia, and there's a nice little version. There's a very, very interesting section there where it says the who's of who's and then who owns whom. Okay, and then on the GMEI situation, if you don't believe me, they consider you a child until you actually claim yourself. And under the GMI utility relationship information, it says ultimate parent. Then below it, it'll say direct parent. Then below that, it'll say branch. Then it'll have successor LEI, duplicate LEI, entity information, registration status, issued, merged, retired, duplicate. You drop down on another one, it'll have transferred, pending transfer, pending archival, annulled, canceled, entity status, active, inactive, managing LOU. And they even give a website. They have legal form, entity category, bank, branch, corporation, fund, government, C, proprietor, other, validation, sources, fully corroborated, partially corroborated, entity, supposedly, pending, registration authority, ID registration authority, entity ID. These things are easily found. There's also one that's linked to that. It's called the DTCC. These are the things that are attached to your social security number and your birth certificate numbers. It's a lot of people getting the information. We accept any kind of help. Join in and come be a part of it.
Yeah, because we're all putting this together. That's the whole point. It's all of us.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Maya.
How informed are you on the rally in Chicago Monday, Memorial Day?
Not really informed at all. Didn't pay attention to it myself.
I heard briefly something about it. Go ahead, because we need to be informed, please.
Well, there's supposed to be 267 pastors who have pledged to take back their First Amendment right. And this is across the country. There's carloads of people that I know of, a couple of carloads that are leaving Oklahoma to head to be there Monday. But I figured 267 pastors who have pledged to take back the First Amendment right would be at least 100 people representing each one of them, church members, maybe up to 1,000. So that's a few people. The pastor to open churches to full capacity Memorial Day. And I think it's interesting that if people want to look up a little more information on this, pastor that makes it clear that we need to take our Constitution back, take it away from them, take it back. So I thought he'd done a fairly good job on that. So all you got to do on the computer is punch in peaceablygather.com.
Say that again.
peaceablygather.com. Churches and synagogues. But peaceablygather.com brings up will bring it up.
The one we
have Pastor Brian Gibson of Kentucky is going to be there. Apparently in Chicago there's going to be a lot of people Monday giving speeches regarding Memorial Day, the history, and what we're going through with what the government's done. So, and if anyone's got any church member or churches or in trust, nonprofit law firm in the United States is specializing in religious freedom, their services will be provided free of charge to any pastor, preacher, shepherd, teacher that's in trouble with the government. So First Liberty also has a phone number, and they want to get back to normal with everyone at the churches. One religious man is saying that they want to just post on the church door, or their entrance, enter at your own risk. Forget the masks, come in just like you used to.
Well, isn't
Well,
that
no,
what we're supposed to do anyways? That's the point, is that way. That's the one thing I've been thinking about doing, is putting a letter together so that you take personal liability for your own actions, so that way you can't sue them. See,
Well, yeah,
they're panicking
but
because, oh my God, I'm liability, I can be sued.
but I think this is pretty good coming from the church group.
I'm not
But
arguing.
that's so.
well, and see, sanctuary. Church is supposed to be a sanctuary anyway. You see, that's
Yeah.
the whole thing. And don't get us wrong. We believe in our spirituality. Okay, we don't condemn anybody for their beliefs. We follow the Declaration of Independence on that one. People get on it about the way he feels, but that falls under the Declaration of Independence. And he has that right. You have the right to congregate wherever you want to and do the things you want to do, as long as it's peaceful, like you said. As long as it's non-combatant, non-belligerent, and it's amazing how the structure of the Crown thinks that when you're speaking in public that you're belligerent, and you're not. You're speaking because you have a compassion for your fellow human beings. And that's really what's going on here. We have a compassion for our fellow human beings also, or our fellow men and women, because they will use these words against you. So you want to stay away from human being, individual person, people. You want to claim yourself as a man or a woman.
Right.
And, that's the idea. We're trying to get everybody together. We want to explore, the different avenues that we can go to get these things done. We don't condemn anybody for what they do or how they feel, because it's not us to judge you. That's the bottom line. It's not us to judge you, and it's not for them to judge you either. They're pulling you in, saying you owe a debt to society. Okay, and the reality is, because of Bankruptcy Act of 1933, June 5th. Okay, in reality, when they did that fraudulently. They did not come to the people, and they did not fully disclose the situation with that contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to get out there to people, is you really got to look at these contracts. It's the same with the birth certificate and your social card, everything.
Yeah.
They're all capital letters. Okay, nobody writes in English in all capital letters. And if you look up nom de guerre, that's a military style of writing. So, and thank you for the input, because I've actually seen Keith out of Kentucky. My former stepmother, God rest her soul, was from Ashland. A lot of people don't remember that, but the Ashland Theater is where sang "Achy Breaky Heart." So,
It's my understanding he'll be in Chicago.
well, I whatever we can do to help, get this stuff changed around, because they have just decided that we are their servants. And that is a mistaken situation in their mindset, that they really need to be in check real quick, and we need to be the ones to give them the checkmate. So more power to them is my thought process.
Well, there's more people waking up.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other point I want to bring up to people's attention still, like I said, people keep going, I want common law, common law. I don't want common law. That's like Bush Sr.'s famous speech. I want the law of man. No, I want the law of the jungle. The law of man gets to decide if you can flush the toilet or not. The law of the jungle knows that if you have to shit, you can shit. So, and that's the problem we're going through right now with a lot of this stuff, because people are going, and I was going through this with people this morning, wee early hours this morning, dealing with common law again, and I'm like, you want common law, so let's say your common law is different than mine says, oh, well, we didn't know it was a crime to rape children when they did.
Yeah, but you could switch that one up. The original common law is the one that we were talking about when it comes to that constitutional situation. That's the other one. They're talking about the Constitution. What they really need to probably put out there in Chicago is for the people, not of the people.
The original Constitution said.
And in reality,
Constitution for the people, not of the people.
Okay, and you see, when you keep going on about common law, I'm not trying to bust your chops, brother. People in that town were the jury. There was no judge.
Right.
Okay, and that's really the way the Constitution was written. You really have got to study the words here. That's how they try to trip you up. Okay, and the reason they did that was because they were afraid that judges were on the take, that they ties somebody in that situation. That's why they had the townspeople. And if you look really back in history, there were not judges in every town. There was just the people. Okay, so that's where the jury came up. That's where the de jure comes in. Okay, and
Right.
it's actually called judicial or jural. Okay, and that's the thing. That's to be judged by your peers, people who know the law, not legal. And believe it or not, if you look up legalese, it will tell you legalese is a form of language. Okay? It's
It says
just like
form of foreign language.
Exactly. It's you better know French.
Yep.
If you walk into a courtroom and you don't know the French, you're done. Same here. If you don't know your legalese, then you're done.
Well, it's not like the United Countries. You don't got a translator.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead,
May
man.
I hope everybody has the documents and the papers that shows that everything is a counterfeit. You have the real and the fake when it comes to government. I know. I've used them in court. I have them. My goodness, you guys are talking about this and that. But you're mixing corporation law with real law.
Right.
And, you know, we need to stay with the organic original law.
Right.
But you almost everything that's going on out here, 99% of it is corporation law. Now, for my state of Oregon, I have 3 pages of corporations, and there's lots of them. I'm talking them. I don't know why I've never counted exactly how many there are, but it's in the entire governmental system. It's all corporations. Even the legislature is a corporation. Yep. They incorporated it all. So we have a fake state.
Right, too.
We have a fake state and on all kinds of fake corporations.
It's all fiction. Well, even your bankruptcy
over 100 of them.
Yeah, even your Bankruptcy Act states that the government is in name only. So you see that right there tells you whatever name they create, that's what they are.
Right.
So all the stuff you're talking about, there's ways of winning because they have a conflict of interest. When you put the evidence in there, evidence is what wins these cases.
Well, and there you go.
Just saying a lot of things doesn't win the cases. I like to win.
Right.
And evidence, the proof is what wins.
That's a fact.
And that's the thing. Maybe you could send that to Ed so he can post it up there as to what you've done.
That's on the website. We do have a page with him on the website, including his jurors book.
Okay.
So you weren't aware of that, but I'm just bringing that up to you.
Yeah.
I took more. I published a book, paperback book, and it took more judges off the bench than anyone in the United States has ever taken off. The day after it was published, 17 judges took early retirement. I'm the only one in the United States that had the U.S. Marshal Madsen come in the courtroom to arrest the most powerful judge in the state of Oregon. He was elected 2 times as the Attorney General, Judge Lee Johnson, when he sat on a case for the cowboy. And I used simple methods. What you guys are talking about doing takes time. It's good to do, a lot of it. The research is beautiful, but it takes time and costs money. And a lot of people, if they're involved in a court case, don't have the time, and sometimes they don't have the money at that time, especially if they were incarcerated, and then they got to be in court.
What's the name of that book? I need to look that up.
I don't know if you can find it. It's a donation. It's the Vulture's book.
Okay.
Let me go over. As I think, matter of fact, I could have sworn we put it up online too. Because I know we have it on new.org and trackers. I know that for a fact.
But I simply had the U.S. Marshal come into a courtroom to arrest Judge Lee Johnson. He had to say, I declare this a mistrial, and all charges are dismissed, and he disappeared. We've never been able to figure out where he went to sue him for $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're bound to have a tracking number.
Well, I'm just saying, never could find him.
Freedom
I took the head of the state police off the bench once in 1990 just because I served some of the other cops and I didn't serve him fast enough. He took early retirement before I could serve him. He was 55 years old, and when I got the lawsuit going, he took early retirement that evening at about 4:30. We went in the next morning to serve him because it's pretty hard for the process servers to serve everybody I was serving, especially in Portland and in Salem. We go to Salem the next morning, first thing, and he's no longer the head of the state police. They just said he took early retirement, no 2-week notice or nothing, and nobody knew where he was at. The state moved him out immediately.
That's in the biker world what we call in the wind.
Well, whatever. Sometimes it's knowing what to do is more important than spending too much time researching.
Well, you see, that's what we're trying to find out on the tax forms, because there is a way to write it off on the tax forms. Okay, there's also, we were talking on a show the other day, and they actually talked about a woman who actually got $1 trillion. And,
right.
She loaned out 300 million of it. And everybody was all like, well, why didn't she loan the entire thing out? Well, they weren't doing their numbers. 3 is a very unique number when it comes to your biblical situation. So is 7. And one of the books that I read was called The Shemitah by Rabbi Kahn. He also has one called The Harbinger. And good readings, because he shows where every 7 years things change. And he goes back in time to point out what was changed and how it was changed, and it's usually just to benefit, these politicians. They know they're being corrupted, and they know they're doing corruption things. So, but
see, they can only change it basically through the corporate law. The original jurisdiction is pretty hard to change every 7 years.
Yeah.
So you have the organic, you have the real, the organic, and you got the fake. And the fake is a corporation. And the corporation naturally, biblically, that's the beast system. Mr. Corporation, whoever it is, does not exist. State of Oregon does not exist versus you. I know I've won issues on that more than once.
Yeah, you see,
Mr.
says
State of Oregon can't come in the courtroom.
Well, a lot of people don't know when it says that we don't fight flesh and blood, we fight municipalities. They don't understand a municipality is a franchise or a corporation. So
it's a corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all have a VIN number, too, and that's the one thing. You got to look up their VIN numbers, too, because you can always cross-reference. And not only that, remember, they're a nonprofit agency. Each and every one of them, and including all your public employees, are a nonprofit. So you can type in nonprofit registry on books, and you'll find out that they are liable with their own homes and assets for their paycheck. So they don't have rights. This is the one thing that people don't get it, that all these people say, I got these rights, but you got rights. Who gave them the rights, and can you prove it? Where's it in writing?
Well, then there's a difference in rights. How many people know RITES is spiritual?
Well, yeah.
And then the RIGHTS actually derives from that. And then you also have WRITES, which is the fictional. So, But, see, this is why I come
For everything that's real, there seems to be a counterfeit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I was trying to look up, because I thought I could have sworn we had the Vultures book on the website.
Well,
That's what I was trying to track it down, because I know we put it up here.
Well, if you find it, send it to me, please.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it to you, because I know we had it up there, and then plus Rash and that ate up somewhere. So, no, and then also, too, 48 stat 112. $1 in gold to any of your people that claim that you owe this amount. $1 in gold cancels the debt of the corporation debts.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, that is stat 112. That's 48. I mean, and we have the solutions. The things are there, is putting it together. And I agree with the other guys saying that sometimes we don't have to, that we don't have time to do all this stuff. And that's the other point. Challenging him under corporation law. He's got a valid point. And also, too, he owns the copyright to the state. Now, in our state is owned by Dexter Johnson. And see, that's the one thing that you've got to realize, that they do all this crap. It's all based on one thing or another. And that's the one thing, is that people don't realize how powerful your affidavit really is, so long as you do it lawfully, not legally. And you want to make sure your affidavits are done lawfully, so that way you have standing. And that's the other point that I try to illustrate to people. When you go to court, you have to know your standing when you go to court. You have to know who you are when you go to court.
Well, if you don't know who they are. The Bible says, prove all things. Prove to me they don't have a conflict of interest. They all belong to the same retirement system, and they are all paid by the same employer. In Oregon, it's called State of Oregon, all capital letters. So you have all the corporations that operate under one corporation, and they're all paid by that same corporation. They have their same retirement system, every public employee. So how can you have a fair trial in any state when everyone is paid by the same boss? There's not supposed to have three branches of government. You need the evidence.
Right.
I believe
that goes in violation of the Hobbs Act, too.
I believe in the old days they used to call that payola, wasn't it?
In some places, yes.
It's just really sad. Just really sad.
Doesn't the scripture say my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge?
Yes, it does, brother. Yes, it does. So funny. I was just thinking that. That's that great mind think alike thing going on there. That's just it. Even though people don't quite comprehend that book. It really is about life. Even in there in what is it, Matthew? It says, "Make friends with thy brother, lest he take you up to the judge, and you'll sit in jail until you pay the last farthing." People don't know what a farthing is. That was money back in the day, made of gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. I'm not opposed to studying everything. The more educated, the more knowledge you have, the better off you are. The better off you can, carry yourself in this world. And I thank you. I learned quite a bit again here tonight. This is why I come here, is for education and to be with like-minded people. So we can get a grip on these nitwits. Look at them. They're out here saying we got to wear a mask. Come on. Just, what was it? Last October, I watched probably 20 of my friends get arrested for wearing a mask. And I think 4 of them just had their faces painted up. It's just really sad. They want to pick and choose what to, let's take, for instance, that woman who opened up her hair salon. They went in there and tore that whole family apart.
Yep.
And then they ganged up on her. Everybody came down on her. But yet, a week or two before that, they released all those rapists and murderers and whatnot. I'm thinking, what? This is like Spock going, very illogical, Captain Kirk. You know, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not adding up. So.
No, it's not adding up, and that's the point that we got, because it's like what's going on in our state. You know, people are just getting torn up by this terrorist called Kate Brown, and, you know, they're slowly getting it, but it's like, you know, trying to get people to write charges up. I mean, I'm the only one that wrote the criminal charges on here, and I'm trying to say we got 100 people file the criminal charges. Washington, D.C. says, oh, we have to do it, but until that happens, you know, it's basically they're looking at one person just whining.
Hey, look, at least she doesn't wear no blackface.
Well, how do you know? We're not with her at that time.
Well, if she is, it's one of them peel mask things. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. Well, also, too, it could be makeup. We don't know.
You know, my understanding was Northam actually used shoe polish. So, you know, maybe that's his problem. You know, the poisons from the shoe polish got into his skin and infected his head, because he stated come Tuesday here in Virginia, we're all wearing masks. And I can tell you right now, there's over probably 1,500 people I know that have said, yeah, it ain't happening.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the other thing. They're trying to see who's a slave and who isn't. So.
And that is the point. Who's a slave? And that's the point. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Because everybody loses, and you can't reap the works. Remember, it's a foreign system. It was created against you.
You know, they want to sell their stuff here, and I'm sorry, I don't trust them. You know, anybody that has concentration camps in their country, I'm sorry, I just can't, I can't roll with that. You know, I just got into a talk with somebody about that, you know, they're all like, well, this isn't for everybody. Well, if that be the case, then Moses wouldn't have freed everybody. That don't make no sense to me. You're saying that Moses would have had to come along back in the day and say, I'm sorry, but I can only help this people over here. I can't help those people over there. And then when Yeshua walked the face of the earth, you know, this is the other one. People are like, oh, well, you got to pay me. Okay, well, wait a minute now, because God gave it to us freely, okay, or the Creator, because in most legal law books, it's called the Creator. And then that's what gets me. And so, like, so what you're saying is that when he fed people and he clothed people and he healed people, he should have been charging for it? See, that don't make no sense. And that's not the way it was written. So, you know, and that's the other one. We're starting to get back into the true Hebrew situation. And I read a very interesting article today where they mistranslated some of the stuff in the Bible to the English version. And in the Hebrew version, cannabis was actually part of the anointing oil. So, and there's a guy who researched with a friend of his, and they
actually says it in the Bible that hemp or that oil is fine, because I know I won a court case in Kansas City where a guy got nailed with so many pounds of hemp, and I filed on it, and I went against it, and that's still a court case in Kansas State, that what I won, and also, too, it says it used hemp.
Well, here's the funny one for everybody that they may not comprehend. What did they start growing when Trump took office down here in Alexandria?
Hemp.
There you go. So, you know, I found that quite interesting. You know? But I thought it was a very interesting article because they actually figured out how to mix it and make it into an anointing oil so that you can actually use it for healing purposes, for joint pain, dementia, what's the other one? Lou Gehrig's and, it's skipping. What's the other one? Alzheimer's. You know, and they've been testing it here shortly and surely. And a lot of people don't remember that in 2018, Trump actually put that in the Farm Act, that you can grow and use cannabis for health and medicinal purposes.
Mm-hmm.
See, you know, people want to argue about things without looking the stuff up. And it's really a crying shame, because under the Freedom of Information Act, they have to post it now. So.
Well, that's the one thing. People don't read, you know, and then I argue with people all the time on things, and it's interesting because you go through this, and yes, and I gotta agree with the other gentleman. Sometimes there is a way to cut through the chase, but then again, I mean, I'm dealing with 3 cases right now, but I want these women to read some of this stuff. I want them to learn some of this stuff, because if they're not reading it, they're not learning it, and they just go out and think that
before the horse. That's why I really like. That's why I really like to read what he has. You know, the more, like I said, the more knowledge you get, the better off you can handle things.
Well, that's what I was looking at. I got to find it because I know we have that book on our website. I know that for a fact. And I don't have any copies left anymore, so.
I might have to send you some more.
Well, if you got some, please do. And then I'll send this guy one.
Yeah. Please, because, you know, that's my thing. I you know, teachers used to tell me my reading and comprehension weren't any good. And that later on, I read a story about Einstein. And in that story, Einstein was about 8 or 9 years old, and he was kind of disrupting the school. And they sent a letter actually pinned to his shirt. And his mother got so furious, she went down to the school the next day and told every teacher in there, never, ever send a letter attached to my kid again. And if you do, I will personally take you in a courtroom and tear you apart. And they kind of laughed at her. And the minute she left there, she went to the school board and got a hold of the school superintendent and said, you don't tell me what my child can and cannot do. You don't spend every minute he's not in school with them. You don't take care of when he's sick, and you don't take care of when he's bruised his knee or cut himself. I do. And for you to tell me because of your curriculum that my child needs special education, there's something wrong with him, we got a problem. And she saved that letter. She never, ever told Einstein about it. He didn't find it until his mother passed away. And she had a total of like 4 letters. And when he first read the first one, he got mad and he tore up his actual studio that he was studying in. And then the second day, he noticed there was more than 1 page there. So he picked up the other pages, and it was his mother describing how she didn't want to restrict his mind whatsoever. And look at what he became by her actually doing that. She took responsibility, and she knew that child was her property. She went down and let them know who she was. So when they told me that my comprehension and reading weren't too good, well, you know, that's a bunch of baloney. That's your
I know.
program.
I went through that personally myself, where they put me in a corner of a school and put a box around me. And my mom did the same thing. So I personally lived through that. I know exactly what it's like.
No, my mom basically ended up telling my dad, and both of them came down because they were divorced. And they walked in and said, well, if there's something wrong with it, is there not something you can do? I mean, isn't that what we pay you for? And then they put me in a reading, you know, section pretty much on my own. And they started pretty much, it was the beginning of computers. You know, back in the 70s, they actually had a rolling television, and I learned to read a whole lot quicker. And I also learned how to scan books a whole lot faster. So, you know, there's ways to, you know, correct those things. So, you know, and then, you know, I'm not one to hear I can't or you won't, or, you know, usually when somebody says, well, you can't do that, they really mean they can't do that, or they can't comprehend how to do it. You know,
or they're afraid to do it.
Yep. And that's always driven me a little bit. You know, I you know, that's how I became a mechanic. You know, you don't know until you tear it apart, you know, and then hopefully you can get it back together without about 20 bolts laying around. But, you know, I've been through that.
Like
too.
my first carburetor I rebuilt.
Don't go there, Ed. Mine burned like that.
Oh, you've been there too, huh?
Mine burned off my eyebrows and my eyelashes real quick. I lost a good hat too, let me tell you.
No, that's when you throw too much gas in the carburetor and you're trying to relight it, you know. It don't work that way.
No, I didn't adjust it properly.
I've been there, man. It's like the first motor I ever rebuilt. I got really pissed off because the guy that, you know, came over and, you know, I couldn't do it. And, basically, he helped me do part of it, and then what pissed me off, I ended up selling him I had a Chevelle station wagon, and I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but there was only a handful of those things made in the country.
Yeah.
Literally a handful.
Yeah.
Those things right now are worth $140,000.
Yeah.
And I had one of the first ones, and it had a 307 V8 in it, and built my first motor I ever built in my life. And I ended up getting run around, got screwed, and then the guy that helped me rebuild the car pissed the shit out of me because he ended up going in, and I was 3 teeth off of the distributor.
Yeah. 15 degrees out.
You got it. And it was like, what the hell?
Yeah. I got lucky. I had a grandfather who was a machinist, so I kind of got lucky in that aspect. So, and God rest his soul, doesn't a day go by I don't think about him. He was chief in the Navy during World War II and one of the first 3 ships that broke rank in Pearl Harbor. So I had a lot of respect for him. My grandfather was like the John Wayne of men, taught me quite a bit of things. I had experiences where I was rebuilding motors before I was even 15 years old. By the time I got my first car, which was shortly after turning 15, he walked me through stuff. I mean, he literally talked me on the phone from Florida to Virginia and tell me exactly how to do things. And I miss that. When they're gone, they're gone. You can talk to them, but they can't talk back. So.
And I read that, I just knew them, but I never knew them. And that's the one thing people don't get, that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, now, he was a stickler. That was back in the day when ball bearings came in a box, and you had to grease them up, put them in, and he would say, there's 100 in that box. He wanted to make damn sure there was 100 in that box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because when you're ordering 100, you need 100. You need 100. You don't need 94.
Yeah. That was one that used to drive me crazy. My dad used to come in and mess with me. I'd be on 7, and I'd get mad, and then finally I beat him at his own game. Came in a couple days later to try that on me, and I was taking the bottom over to an old magnet.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little notepad and a pen. I was like, yeah, go ahead, buddy.
No, that's the one thing you did do right,
Yeah.
If I may.
Well, the other one was, how he taught me to swim. Here. And over the boat I went.
I know that one. I got caught in the Russian River that way on Johnson Beach. You're going to learn how to swim, kid.
If I may.
I always love it, Some people might have a different story from what you lived. I always love it when people have a different story when you lived it,
Yeah.
So, anyhow, with that, anybody else would like to add anything this evening?
Yeah.
So, I got to find a copy of the... Go ahead. Somebody said something, I thought.
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me all right?
Oh. Say that again?
I said something. Can you hear me all right? The Vulture book. You go to the website, click the resource link. The little tab that says resources.
Let me go over to the website. Wait a minute. Let me go over to resource tab. Resource tab. I clicked on that.
All right. Let me know whenever you get up there.
I'm on resource. Which one am I clicking on to?
You're looking for on the left hand.
Instruments, original, what?
No, just the resources, the resource page. Click the resources.
All right, you got the full page up.
Okay. Now, on the left side, you'll see religion related, a box that says religion related. And then underneath that, it has in red writing, Oregon judges may not have a Constitution oath. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, Part 6, and last part. That's the Vulture book completely.
Oh, bless you, my brother.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to, why did my computer freeze up again?
You keep asking that question, and you're running for office, and you're pissing them off.
No, it's because he's got
Hey, at least I get
500
good
tabs
humor,
open.
you know.
Yeah, I know, you know. Well, I don't know if that's that many, at least 100.
Would that be all over the page there, producer?
So, all right, I clicked onto that. I got the page up where it says, all right, now we're talking, where it says religion related, right?
Right, and underneath
said.
that, it has another white box that has Oregon judges may not have a Constitution oath. And then there's a big black line, and then it has
Constitutional oath. Okay.
part
now
1.
I got
part
it. It's
there.
1 through 7 parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that, and then that way I can get that sent over to him. That way he gets a copy of it. And then if I get a copy of it mailed to me, that would be get a couple more of those. Because I'm pissed off because, you know, when you have family that don't give a shit about the Constitution or anything, they throw your shit away because to them it doesn't matter to them.
That's that slave mentality.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we'll hire a lawyer.
I'd rather
And then
be,
they wonder why they got screwed.
I'd rather be pissed off than pissed on. It's that simple.
That's true. That's why they tell you don't piss in the wind.
No, the one that gets me is they're pissing on you and they say it's raining. That bothers me.
Especially when it's warm.
Like I can't smell the difference. You know what I'm saying? What? You know, really? You know? Oh.
All right, so let's wrap it
Yeah,
up.
that
then.
is a good one. So, yeah, let's go ahead and call it an evening then. If nobody else has got anything else they would like to bring up to the table or add.
Well, I want to yell out a thank you to that man.
Let's wrap it up with reasons not to wear a mask.
Yeah, but see, I thought wearing a mask was a federal crime. Wasn't that Cassaw?
One of my friends just sent that to me. He said, this is the first time I've ever had to go into a bank, and I'm wearing a mask. And the funny part is, he was convicted of robbing 3 banks about 40 years back. Problem was he used the same car, and it was a 1976 Maverick 302 Moss. And of all colors, it was that damn bright red with a black hood. And he's like, Joe, I was good until I hit that 3rd one. I was like, you weren't good when you hit the 1st one, you know, because we had been drinking a lot that week. That was when we were young and dumb. So.
Never done that stupid shit in my life.
Well, he's been out about 20 years. He's been out about 20 years now. He changed his life around. He's, you know, he became a diesel mechanic. He's done pretty damn good for himself, you know, but I think he had to sit in that jail cell for 13 years to get himself straightened out, you know. This bank, I'm wearing a mask. I was like, you just go on in there, Bob. Do what you got to do, man. You know? I said, you ain't got no weapons on you, right? He says, you know, I'm not supposed to have none of those. You know.
Well, anyway, we might wrap it up. Reasons not to wear a mask. Number 1, lack of oxygen. Number 2, lack of fresh air. Number 3, inhaling your own breath, carbon monoxide, and germs is unhealthy. Number 4, inhaling your own breath may make you sick. Number 5, wearing a mask interferes with your immune system. You may no longer be immune to your own germs. Number 6, wearing a mask should be at your own discretion. Signed by Coronavirus and the Vaccination Chip.
Yeah, don't forget that if you get a vaccination, they're putting a chip in you.
Did you see that one where they? Did you see that one where they did that like 2 days ago up in the Midwest? And they were passing out shirts. I got the vaccination. I got the chip. And I was just like, you got the chip. You didn't get a vaccination. They shot it through a needle. And
That's right.
And they're lying to him and saying it's not a tracking device. It's so that you can just scan and get your sodas and your chips and your food.
And your medical records. Don't forget that. That's a big cake that they were putting for medical records for it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a proven fact when they chip these dogs and cats, it's causing cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You're not chipping my butt. You're going to have to use that other chip, that lead one.
yeah. Well, it's like I wouldn't even chip my dog.
They used to tattoo them. I wouldn't even do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that just, I actually went to school with a guy whose father was in Auschwitz. And the story he told was just heartbreaking. It'd bring you to tears. Because he stood in the line with 300 people and they gunned him down. And what they were taught back in those days was the minute they start shooting, fall. And he was buried under 3 people. And after he got out of those 3 people, we had to go another 3 people. By the time he got out of school and he rolled his sleeve up and actually showed us his actual number and his documentation to it. And that was just heartbreaking. So.
Yeah, it's bad enough people get their own tattoos.
Hey, now.
I'm not bitching. I got one.
One.
Yeah, I only got one. That was, you can sort of say, it was actually put on me.
I got 19, brother.
No, not me. Mine was put on me for some things I did.
No, mine was totally different. My grandfather had them, and I always kind of enjoyed it. And then I went and kind of got a little hooked myself for a while. You know,
Yeah.
and I was told before, possibly going into the service, it's one of the ways they identify your body parts. So I got quite a few of them. And then when I went to the service, because I was on the draft and they actually called my name, it was just before the Grenada stuff, and they knew it was coming, and they called me in, and by the grace of whatever, I ended up with flat feet. So they said no, and that was the time they were starting to do the college education funds. And they really just wanted to prove that point, so they just told me no. And I went from the Navy to the Air Force to basically the Marines, and they all bounced me. And then on the 4th one of the guys from the Army called me, and I just told him, I said, I got flat feet. He's like, oh, crap, man. It's like, right? But in a way, where would I be where I am today if that hadn't happened? So.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. So.
Yeah, that's like, they told me I had flat feet, and then some of the recruiters were terrified that I was going to take over.
No.
They said, you don't listen to orders very well. And I said, no, I don't take them well either.
First one was somebody said, you're going to take this order. I said, did you want that with French fries? I got knocked clean to the floor. So, but gentlemen, thank you so much for the evening. It's been fun.
No, anyhow, seeing that we got tonight wrapped up, we appreciate your time. We appreciate everybody's time. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And we'll make sure, you can't do it out of a test tube. It doesn't work that way, folks. And once you destroy the planet, that's why, all this cleanliness. Oh, we got to sanitize everything. So they're sanitizing the earth for what reason? So that's the point. Without the vaccinations, we would live a lot happier without them. And that's the point, because we were able to, our body adapted to the crap that was in the ground and the air and everything. And now they're doing the sanitizing stuff, so it's destroying your equilibrium in your body. So you got to pay attention to what your bodies are telling you. So with that, why don't you have a blissful evening? We appreciate your time. We'll see you next week, and then we're still putting together. I've got to take some time to put, excuse me, the rest of the stuff together. I'm putting on the stuff so we can put it in an article fashion, so that way we can start laying it out, how we can start writing off our bills and stuff. And then also, too, when we do that, I already got filed in the Utility Commission for the state of Oregon. Once we do it, it's already filed to be represented by them to do it. And so I have a certified document from the Utility Commission on that, agreeing to that already. So, and I got to try to find that again, seeing that destroyed my last computer. So it is fun how they attack your computers. So, and they know that people don't have the resources when you're disabled and elderly and stuff. That's what, so anyhow, with that, we'll call it an evening. We appreciate that, and thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you very much for listening to Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. It is Saturday, May 23rd, 2020, and y'all have a good weekend. Enjoy remembering those that you have honored, those that you have lost, and remember, as long as you remember